Nightline begins now with me, Muhammed, Ahmad, Hamdan. The top stories. Ceiling price control for chicken, eggs and subsidies for bottled cooking oil to be discontinued. And heavy vehicles banned from entering KL City at peak hours. Good morning. Ceiling price control for chicken and chicken eggs, as well as subsidies for palm cooking oil in bottles of 2, 3 and 5 kilograms will not be continued from July 1st. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dr. Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said the move will be implemented to ensure that the supply of food in the market is more stable. According to Datuk Sri Nanta, chicken prices will be floated and will depend on market forces. He added the needy group will be assisted with targeted financial aid and details on the matter would be announced by the Finance Ministry soon.
Kita juga akan memasukkan subsidi kepada minyak sawit yang di minyak masak tu yang berbotol, iaitu dijual 2 kilogram, 3 kilogram dan 5 kilogram. Ini tidak termasuk, saya nak ini jelas, tidak termasuk yang RM2.50 dijual yang polybag 1 kilogram. Itu diteruskan untuk semua warga negara dan pengguna.
Datuk Sri Nanta announced this in a press conference after chairing an engagement session with stakeholders in the poultry industry in Putrajaya on Tuesday. He revealed that the subsidy for bottled cooking oil was only a temporary program and should have been implemented for 3 months since August last year, but it went on until today, costing the government about 20 million ringgit every month. When asked about flour subsidy, he said it would continue for now. Meanwhile, the Federation of Malaysian Consumers Associations FOMCA urged the government to implement more targeted subsidies to assist the vulnerable groups.
We had to agree with the ministry. The subsidy given by the government is of course bloated, and we need to look into more targeted subsidies so that those who really needs it, they can benefit out of the subsidy.
FOMCA also warned that removing the subsidy on bottled cooking oil as well as ceiling price control on chicken and chicken eggs will have a negative impact on the market, as some parties will take advantage by manipulating food prices and profiteering.
We also like to advise the ministry. Definitely, when you remove all these elements of subsidies, certain people will try to take advantage by profiteering and so on. So we hope that the government will look into that and make sure the enforcement team is on the ground and to take action on those who actually try to profit out of the situation, the current situation. And FOMCA will also continue to monitor this issue and will definitely bring up this issue to all the relevant ministries if there's any manipulation in the market.
Now, members of the public are of the view that the removal of the subsidy for bottled cooking oil as well as ceiling price control on chicken and chicken eggs will badly impact them, especially those in the B40 group. They also believe that buying food will get even more pricey than it is now.
It will be impact for B40 and others. Those who are moderate and everybody be affected. Very badly be affected. I think they have to do something on this. Government have to do something, or subsidy or other things. They have to reduce all the prices. The thing go on like that, I don't know how the public going to survive.
I think it's going to be really hard for the public, especially on the B40 groups, because baru-baru ni je, they just announced they raised the minimum gaji to 1,500, But then the inflation goes crazy.
B40 group, it's definitely going to impact them. Yeah, and I think the restaurateurs will be affected as well. Maybe people will start reducing their consumption of chicken and outside food, and in turn that will affect the restaurateurs. Cooking oil, like I said, is an essential. So if the price of that goes up, definitely the price, let's say nasi lemak or roti canai, it's going to go up as well. Yeah. So that is inevitable. So you can expect eating out, takeouts to be more expensive.
It's going to affect most and everyone because the pandemic just ended and most of them are just only starting back, getting back their works and all. So it will definitely affect everyone. And I don't know, I just hope it goes back everything to normal as soon as possible.
In the meantime, the poultry industry is now in the process of returning production capacity to the maximum level to ensure the country does not face the lack of chicken supply as before. Agriculture and Food Industries Minister Datuk Sri Ronald Kiandi said Malaysia's chicken production capacity reached 106% before facing the shortage of chicken supply 2 to 3 months ago.
Berbagai masalah yang telah dikemukakan oleh pihak penternak dan kini sedang diambil tindakan oleh kerajaan melalui pelbagai kementerian, termasuk masalah kenaikan kos input, masalah buruh, pengambilan buruh, masalah penyakit yang ditangani oleh pelbagai.
Datuk Sri Ronald added that the maximum production is needed to meet the chicken consumption rate of between 1.8 to 2 million birds a day before the chicken price is floated according to the market starting July 1st. He said his ministry was monitoring the supply of chicken in the next 2 to 3 weeks to ensure it was sufficient before reviewing the ban on chicken export to other countries. The government will formulate a national adaptation plan, MyNAP, relating to the impact of climate change, which will include a long-term action plan and strategies for various sectors. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the sectors include public health, infrastructure, water resources and security, agriculture, forestry and biodiversity. In a statement, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said the decision was reached at the Malaysia Climate Change Action Council (MyCAC) meeting held online on Tuesday, which discussed, among others, the proposed flood management roadmap to increase Malaysia's resilience and readiness in facing the impact of climate change. Also discussed was the proposed use of electric vehicles in the organising of large-scale events, which was expected to be a catalyst for the development of the EV ecosystem, as well as reducing greenhouse gas emissions effectively. The Prime Minister explained that it also has the potential to attract foreign investment, create green jobs and reduce fuel subsidies by the government. The meeting was also attended by Menteri Besar, Chief Ministers, Cabinet Ministers, representative of the Chief Secretary to the government and experts in climate change. The Federal Territories Ministry, through the Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL, has banned heavy vehicles exceeding 7.5 tonnes from entering the city centre with immediate effect. Its Deputy Minister Datuk Sri Jalaluddin Alias said the enforcement measure was decided on Tuesday by a special committee looking into solutions regarding the methods and actions to disperse traffic congestion in the capital.
Kalau mereka memasuki bandar Kuala Lumpur bagi tempoh itu, maka pihak penguasaan daripada PDRM, daripada DBKL dan JPJ akan lakukan compound mandatory. Tidak ada lagi apa yang dikatakan kompromi dan sebagainya.
Datuk Sri Jalaluddin said this at a media conference after chairing the first meeting of this special committee. Also present was KL Mayor Datuk Sri Mahadi Cekngah. It was found that congestion in the city was due to a 45% increase in the number of vehicles after the easing of the Movement Control Order MCO since August last year, with 46.76 million recorded in December 2021 compared to 26.51 million in December 2019. The committee has also decided to ban vehicles from parking on the curb during peak hours and will be phasing out parking spots at major roads in stages. Traders were also banned from conducting business on pavements during peak hours, and DBKL will phase out trading spots in stages on pavements of major roads. The proposed construction of an alternative expressway from Gopeng to Kuala Kangsar to bypass the Menora Tunnel can only materialize once the environmental, traffic and social impact studies are ready. Senior Works Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof said the project, involving a 64-kilometre stretch, had received the green light from the Cabinet. According to Datuk Sri Fadilah, the Cabinet has in principle agreed with the proposal to construct the Gopeng-Kuala Kangsar Expressway to avoid congestion at the Menora Tunnel. He added once approved, the company needs to adhere to the precedent conditions set by the Malaysian Highway Authority, LLM, and the government to ensure the project could be implemented.
Salah satunya ialah environment. Dia kena buat social impact study, dia kena buat traffic study untuk memastikan projek ini viable. Bila dia dibuat, viable. Dan sebab viable ni macam mana nak tentukan viable? Satu, cost projek itu dan berapa nanti tol yang dikenakan untuk dia bayar balik hutang dan sebagainya, operasi dan sebagainya.
On May 16th, Perak Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Saharani Muhammed also said the state government supported the private sector project involving a route through the Gopeng exit to Siputeh linked to Kuala Kangsar. It was expected that the project could also reduce accidents at the current hotspot, as the proposed route was flat without hills. Now, the creation of smart cities in the country is seen as one of the approaches to resolve urbanization issues, as well as improving quality of life and spur economic growth. Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Adham Baba said based on the increasing trend of people living in urban areas, the country is facing challenges to strike a balance in the aspects of economic benefit, environmental preservation and transitioning towards low carbon footprint. The minister was speaking to the media after launching Sustainable Smart City Sandbox pilot program between Malaysia Research Accelerator for Technology and Innovation, Meranti, through the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox, NTIS, and Sunway Innovation Labs, or iLabs, in Petaling Jaya, Selangor on Tuesday. He said smart cities would enable the use of technology developed by local talents such as NTIS to assist the authorities in tackling urbanization issues.
Sunway iLab Super Accelerator ini memberi fasilitasi kepada syarikat pemula dengan tapak ujian dan akses pasaran kepada unit perniagaan seterakan ekosistem global. Selain itu, syarikat pemula lepasan Sunway iLab Super Accelerator akan berpeluang menerima akses kepada tapak ujian, pendanaan dan fasilitasi pengawasliaan bagi memacu inovasi kepada pengomersialan melalui National Technology Innovation Sandbox. Begitu juga sebaliknya, syarikat di bawah NTIS juga berpeluang untuk menyertai program Super Accelerator yang dikenalikan oleh Sunway iLabs.
During the event, MOSTI, under its agency Meranti, also signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU with iLabs for the Smart City Sandbox through NTIS. Such efforts, according to the minister, could make Bandar Sunway as a living lab, bringing in young talents, intellectuals and research experts to generate actual solutions for urban areas in the future. Moving on, over at the Cradle Fund CEO Nazrin Hassan murder case, a brief scuffle broke out between lawyers and photographers at the entrance to the Shah Alam High Court on Tuesday. Journalists covering the case were momentarily distracted when lawyer S. Suresh, representing the juveniles accused, was hit in the head by a photographer. Expletives were hurled as some photographers split up the fight. The photographer was heard daring the lawyer to lodge a police report over the assault. Suresh was later seen walking towards the stairs. Both parties then apologized but decided to lodge police reports. And as for the fate of Nazrin's widow Samirah Muzaffar and two teenagers, the court ruled that there was no evidence to show that they murdered the deceased. Judge Dato Abdul Karim Abdul Rahman said that the prosecution only assumed the last time the deceased was with the accused and the two children at the time stated in the charge. In addition, the judge said the court found that the time of the incident from 1:30 a.m. to 4 a.m. June 14, 2018 was contrary to the evidence of prosecution witnesses and did not convince the court. On Samirah's petrol can, Dato Karim said the court found that the evidence on petrol did not show any connection with the accused. Thus, the judge said the court found that the prosecution had failed to prove a prima facie case against the three of them. Hearing of the case began on September 6, 2019. On March 12, 2019, Samirah, 47, the two teenagers who are now aged 19 and 16 years old, as well as an Indonesian woman, Eka Wahyu Lestari, who is still at large, were charged with murdering Nazrin at his house in Petaling Jaya between 11:30 p.m. on June 13, 2018 and 4 a.m. the following day. They were charged under Section 302 of the Penal Code, read together with Section 34 of the same code, which provides for the death penalty upon conviction. More local updates later in the bulletin, but first, after this short break, biggest rail strike in 30 years brings UK to standstill. Stay with us. Ukraine on Tuesday acknowledged difficulties in fighting in its east as Russian forces stepped up pressure and made advances on two cities ahead of an EU summit this week, which is expected to welcome Kyiv's bid to join the bloc. The governor of the Luhansk region, scene of the heaviest Russian onslaughts in recent weeks, said Russian forces had launched a massive attack and gained some territory on Tuesday, although it was relatively quiet overnight. Russia was also heavily shelling the eastern industrial city of Lysychansk in the Donbas region, which has been the center of intense fighting for weeks between Kyiv's army and Moscow's troops. Currently, conditions are grim for civilians left in Lysychansk who have no mobile phone connections, running water or power. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in the meantime, had predicted Russia would step up attacks ahead of the EU summit on Thursday and Friday. However, he was defiant in an address to the nation, referring to difficult fighting in Luhansk for Severodonetsk and its sister city, Lysychansk. Rush hour commuters in the UK faced chaos on Tuesday as railway workers began the network's biggest strike action in more than 3 decades, with a cost of living crisis threatening wider industrial action. Some of the more than 40,000 rail workers who are due to strike on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday gathered at picket lines from dawn, leaving the network at a standstill and major stations deserted. This prompted Prime Minister Boris Johnson to warn that the rail strikes are driving away commuters who ultimately support the jobs of rail workers, whilst also impacting businesses and communities across the country. Union members, however, argued the rail strikes are necessary as wages have failed to keep pace with UK inflation, which has hit a 40-year high and is on course to keep rising. They added that the strikes could mark the start of a summer of discontent, with people moving towards industrial action as surging food and fuel prices push inflation towards 10%. Over in China, the heaviest rainfall in decades has triggered floods and landslides in the country's southern province, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people. With rainstorms continuing to lash southern and eastern regions, including Guangdong, Guangxi and Jiangxi on Tuesday, it was reported that some 85 rivers nationwide have experienced floods above the warning level. Authorities said torrential rains was forecast to continue over the next 3 days and would continue to raise water levels. Currently, the average rainfall in Guangdong, Fujian and Guangxi provinces between early May and the middle of June has already reached 621 millimeters, the highest since 1961. Manchester United in four-way battle for Napolis' Fabian Ruiz. Sports coming up next. Manchester United are in a four-way Premier League tussle to sign Napoli midfielder Fabian Ruiz this summer. According to Italian reports, Ruiz was an alternative target to Barcelona's Frenkie de Jong, who is the top aim for Erik ten Hag. The Spain international has a year left on his contract, but looks unlikely to renew at this stage. In fact, reports at the end of May claim he rejected Napoli's latest offer of an extension. Further reports said that he has also rejected Newcastle United as he feels there are bigger opportunities out there. Napoli are also willing to sell and want about $32 million for Ruiz. United are after a midfielder this summer to plug their gaps in that area after 4 midfielders, including Paul Pogba, left Old Trafford this summer. Ruiz, who has 15 Spain caps, scored 7 goals and set up 5 others in 38 Napoli appearances last season. In the meantime, Manchester United officials were travelling to Amsterdam on Tuesday to seal a transfer for Ajax winger Antony. Local media reported that United were closing in on the signing of the 22-year-old for more than $42 million. The six-cap Brazil international has a strong bond with United new head coach Erik ten Hag and posted a farewell message to his manager as he left Ajax. The Red Devils are looking to bounce back this summer following a dismal 2021-2022 campaign. While they have ambitions to enjoy a strong first transfer window under new manager Ten Hag, they have been slow out of the starting blocks. After the break, prosecution to prove Syed Saddiq's offences malicious, dishonest. Details when we return. Still gathering evidence on allegations that non-refugees were given refugee status cards by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR. Its Minister Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin said, however, his ministry has yet to hold discussions with UNHCR on the matter.
Saya nak mencari banyak lagi evidence untuk memastikan bahawa apa yang saya katakan ini bukan masalah satu atau dua orang. Tidak, dikata satu dua ni maybe mungkin tersilap. Dia kata. Jadi susahlah kita kan. Jadi biar banyak evidence, silap apa kalau dah banyak-banyak saya ni. Ada sesuatu yang mereka ingin sorokkan daripada kita. Jadi itu yang kita lakukan, insya-Allah. Bila sampai masanya, saya akan buat keputusan dan ambil tindakan sewajarnya.
He said this after officiating at the National Integrated Immigration System Project contract handover ceremony in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. Datuk Seri Hamzah added his ministry has allocated about 900 million ringgit to meet the needs of the immigration department and address the weaknesses in the country's immigration system. The move was also to ensure the immigration system was more comprehensive, modern, integrated and customer-friendly. And lastly, the prosecution in the case of Syed Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman, who faces 4 charges of criminal breach of trust, CBT, misappropriation of funds and money laundering, will prove the offences allegedly committed by MUA Member of Parliament are of malicious intent and dishonest. Deputy Public Prosecutor Datuk Wan Shahruddin Wan Ladin, who led the prosecution team, said his team would rely on a combination of direct evidence, circumstances and documents in proving the case against the accused. Syed Saddiq is charged as the then Bersatu's youth wing chief of abetting Rafiq Hakim Razali, Armada's assistant treasurer at the time, with CBT of 1 million ringgit in funds belonging to the wing. Subsequently, the MP is charged with misusing property for himself, namely 120,000 ringgit from Maybank Islamic Berhad account belonging to Armada Bumi Bersatu Enterprise by causing Rafiq to dispose of the money. He also faces 2 counts of engaging in money laundering activities, namely 2 transactions of 50,000 ringgit believed to be proceeds of unlawful activities from his Maybank Islamic Berhad account into his Amanah Saham Bumi Putra account. The charges are framed under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, which provides maximum imprisonment of 15 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the amount or the proceeds of illegal activities upon conviction. South Korea's domestically built rocket has successfully placed a payload into orbit on Tuesday, boosting its efforts to catch up with advanced countries in space development after a first test failed last year. The three-stage Nuri rocket, emblazoned with a national flag, lifted off from the Naro Space Center on a small island off the country's southern coast at 4 p.m. Let's take a look at the launch as we wrap up Nightline this time around. With that, I'm Muhammed, Hamdan. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.